Hi. Fantastic Friday, fellow Toastmaster and guests. Today we have a special workshop and we have Kin Ng with us. Kin is an award-winning speaker, peak performance coach, and a high-impact trainer in the fields of leadership, communication, and public speaking. His personal mission is to inspire others to inspire and help them shine in all areas of their life. As the video commando, he specializes in helping individuals speak comfortably on camera. Kin has coached and trained thousands of people, from student to CEO, in the art of effective presenting, leadership, and peak performance. Kin was former COO of a listed company on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange and previously held the appointment of officer commanding with the Singapore Armed Forces Commandos. He's a distinguished Toastmaster and the 2018 Table Topics Champion for District 80. He's currently pursuing his master's degree at Harvard University Extension School. So, are you ready, Kin?
Yeah, already.
Okay, let's start the workshop now.
Okay, fantastic. So, fantastic evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you might be in the world. I'm not sure where everyone is right now, but just to check, can everybody hear me clearly? Okay, yeah. By all means, there is a chat function within the video. So do respond there. If you have any questions or any concerns, any thoughts, please also use that chat so that we have a list of it and I can get a sense of what you need. So let me first share the slides. There we go. There. Can see? Okay, so I'll just go on quickly. And of course, it's important to figure out that ultimately I understand that I have a workshop here to teach and share about quick thinking skills. And really this is how it's linked to table topics, because in the workplace, how often do you find that you have ideas, but you're not quite sure how to phrase them? Or maybe someone else presents an award-winning idea and it's like, oh yeah, well done. And you think, hey, I had an idea, but I couldn't put it out in the first place. Or perhaps I couldn't communicate those ideas effectively. So this is what this workshop is about. It's about helping you frame your thoughts quickly so that you can sound smart, think quickly, and yeah, get your way at work, really. So before we begin, I just need to check if there's anyone with any special concerns at this point, or perhaps you could use the chat bar to share what is it that you want to get out of this meeting. Can we just have some responses on the chat? Okay, I can't seem to see the chat responses. Let me see how I can figure it out. Aha, okay. Yep, okay, so I see techniques. Anyone, anything else? Please feel free to flood the chat with your thoughts, and especially in the question and answer, because I don't think there's really any point if I go speaking, but I don't really get to address what everyone wants to get out of this meeting, right? After all, communication is about what you receive from me. So please share, besides techniques, anyone, anything else that you would like to get out of this session? Okay, how to tackle tough questions, got that? Any more? Change dynamics of the new workplace. Okay, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Maybe you could explain that a little bit. Elevator pitch. Okay, if we have some time, we'll go through that as well. Okay, I guess that's about all everyone has got there. So we'll new workplace as an open concept workplace. Okay, so for this portion of this workshop, really, it's about that idea of how you can think quickly and speak effectively. So whether it's an open concept workplace or closed door concept, I think what we're going to focus on here for tonight's session at the very least is to figure out how you can sound smart when you get thrown curveball questions, or when you get asked for your opinion, and how you can do that effectively in a way that elevates your own branding in the office, all right? Also, before we go on, I recognize that I do have a little bit of a flu. I've been running a fever for the last, 2 days. So please forgive my sniffling. So I'll just quickly move on, right? So what you, okay, tough questions from bosses and peers. Okay, we'll definitely get some practice on that as well. Okay, so moving on. What you get today, quite quickly, you get some common mistakes that people get answering questions. And we'll also look at some things I learned about answering questions effectively. And this is from my experience as a table topic champion. I did do quite a fair bit of practice on this. And these are skills that I've coached executives and CEOs and helped them find jobs through interviews as well, because these techniques are applicable in the real world, all right? So for those of you who think, hey, Toastmasters is just something else, it's just for yourself. Well, yeah, it's when you apply what you learn in Toastmasters to the working world, that's when you really, really get the benefit of Toastmasters. So I'll help you make that translation today, all right? And of course, we'll end off with a bit of a practice and a Q&A so that we can deepen our learning and really make sure everybody gets something from today. Also, if I'm speaking too fast, by all means on the group chat, just type too fast so that I'll slow down or I'll re-explain a certain concept if necessary, all right? So I'll move on. Quite quickly, I'm just going to share a little bit about myself, and this is perhaps the elevator pitch, right? Where if you see the kid in the picture, I was 15 at the time, but I know I didn't look 15, and I had very, very low self-esteem. It so happened that I remember, particularly in primary 5, there was a class debate where our teachers wanted to have us practice thinking on our feet. And I remember standing up confidently, speaking my mind, only to realize after I sat down that I had argued for the opposition instead of my own team. And at the end of that class, my teammates came up to me and they said, Kin, you know what? Maybe you should think twice before you open your mouth. You really did us in there. And I felt so nervous and guilty, you know, and I figured out I'm definitely not joining the debate team. And so I didn't, right, in school. And I didn't think of myself much as a speaker, as a talker. But years later, going to NS, when I was challenged, right, in the commandos, I was challenged and they said, hey, do you want to be a commando officer? I'm like, commando officer, are you sure I can make it? I'm a tiny kid with a squeaky voice at the time. And yeah, I was an asthmatic kid as well. So I didn't know whether that was something that could work for me, but I decided, you know what? Why don't I give it a shot and see what happens? And so just practicing day in, day out, practicing getting into the role of things, getting to do more than just push-ups, of course, but practicing, speaking, communicating. And eventually I did make it to become a commando officer. And today I command a commando company as a part of my reservist duties for national service. And since then, of course, I've won the Table Topic Championship last year. And I've realized that thinking quickly is not something that I could do. Communicating effectively was not something I could do. But this is something I think I do fairly well now, and I've coached others to be able to do the same. So wherever you are at this point, if you think, oh, I suck at table topics, or, oh, you know, I'm not that great, don't worry. It's not about being great right now. It's about learning how people do it well, practicing how people do it well, and believing that you do it well as well. That way, with the practice, you get the skills. By learning, you get the knowledge. And with mindset, right, your attitude, you'll succeed every time. Okay, so on that note, that's just something I want all of you to take note of, which is that communication and communicating effectively is a skill that you can learn. So I'll quickly move on then. So mistake number 1, would anybody like to guess? Well, actually the answer is there, right? The biggest mistake that most people make while communicating is thinking that it's all about themselves. And this is something that's really common, right? Just to check with everyone watching or everyone in the webinar right now, how often have you gone on stage and felt nervous? And then you think, oh man, how's this presentation gonna go? How do I look? Oh, did I straighten my tie? Oh no, I forgot to shave my nose hair, right? Or, oh no, is what I'm saying making sense? So a lot of time when your focus is on yourself, right? You think me. What happens is you get nervous. But on the other hand, if you try turning that around and thinking about you, in this case, meaning the audience, who's the audience? What can they get? What would you like them to get? And you will find that this is something that really takes the edge off. It takes the nervousness off and it helps you think better. For example, if this were a crowded boardroom meeting, right? Suddenly the boss asks you, hey, let's say Jenny, for example, what do you think about this? right? If you're going to think, oh no, me, oh no, the boss is arrowing me, oh, right? That creates nervousness when you're thinking about yourself. So do your best not to think about yourself, but to think about your audience instead. What do you want them to know? What can you help them get? And to clarify that, remember that communication really is a conversation. Whether it's public speaking, whether it's one-to-one, it's always a conversation. If you watch the video of world champion Dhananjaya, right? When he speaks, you know it's a speech. But the way he breaks it down, it's as if he's having a conversation with you. He asks you questions as well. Have you felt this way before? Have you ever felt so broken? Right? So think about speaking as a conversation, and you find that you don't get that nervous and you appear more confident. Next, you can also consider speech value. If you're going to talk about something, particularly in the workplace, is there value in what you say? Or what are the things that connects the themes, right? If you're thinking about speeches at least, what are some common themes that you could have in your speech? How can you make that interesting? So think about common themes through ideas like experiences, right? I'm sure everyone here listening, you've all felt love, you felt success, you felt victory, you felt challenges, you felt betrayed, you felt jealous maybe. So these are the experiences that we have in life that everyone can relate to. We might not have had the exact same experience, but through the feelings that we felt, we've all had that kind of experience before, right? Like for example, in my story earlier, I don't know whether any of you have taken part in a class debate, but have you all felt nervous before or felt really lousy when you did something wrong and therefore lost the confidence to speak up confidently, right? So these are common experiences that we have that when you talk about can help people relate and identify with what your message is. So let's move on. Mistake number 2. So the thing is, what were we talking about again? And you find that a lot of the time people don't answer the question, right? And this really is a big problem, because if you're not answering the question, typically you sound stupid. It's either that or people think, oh, this person doesn't know what I'm talking about, and they then look down on you. So typically when there's a question being asked, what you want to do is answer the question. So quite simply, if there are any engineers in the room, I think there was one, right? Let's see. It was Dennis, was it? I think earlier you mentioned that you used to be in engineering. Yeah. So the idea here is that this is how our mind works. Our mind is like a circuit, and typically when we are curious about something, there is what we call knowledge loop. So when you don't answer the question, it leaves a gap, right? Let me see if I can draw it here. Okay. Yeah, it leaves a gap and people get grumpy. So what you want to do is when people ask a question, do your best to answer it, because when you close that circuit, people know, and then they feel great about that answer, right? I do have some examples for this, but I'll leave it to the end of the presentation if anyone really needs it, because it gets a little bit winding, and I do want everyone to get some practice for table topics, right? So when the circuit closes, typically people feel happy because you answer the question. Or perhaps you can think about whenever you ask a help desk, maybe Singtel or StarHub, you have problems with your mobile, you call them, hey, I have a problem, can you help me sort it out? Then they say, oh, wait, or you wait on the line and you don't get your question answered. It's very annoying. So remember to always answer the question. So at this point, sometimes people may say, but Kin, what if there is a challenging question? What if there's a trick question or a loaded question? Right? So we'll go into the practice of answering some of these trick questions later, okay? What you can do to make sure you answer the question, because some people also say, hey, you know what, when I'm talking, sometimes I lose track of what I'm talking about. Well, then come back to the question by restating your answer. Typically, when you get asked a question, you have an idea of where you are, what your position is, right? And in the context of table topics, it's the same. Go back to the topic so that you have linked your answer to whatever the topic is. Next, if you can end with a quote or use some humor, typically you come across as being a lot more effective, right? You might use tried and tested quotes such as, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great, right? Now, that's not my quote. I think it's a quote by Zig Ziglar or one of these success gurus, but it's a great quote. And by borrowing the words of greater people, well, it just makes you sound smart, right? So that's like your effective name dropping from the sales perspective. Okay. And of course, humor. Now, people always also say, hang on, Kin, I'm not funny. How do I use humor, particularly impromptu situations? So the challenge here is humor is not something that you can pull up right away, right? It's a skill that needs to be developed and practiced. For example, if you've watched people like Kumar or maybe Trevor Noah or Gabriel Iglesias, Russell Peters, these comedians spend hours and hours and hours of time practicing their humor, testing jokes on different parts of the audiences around the world, right? And they test, does it land? Hang on, maybe I should slow this part down. Maybe I should vary my voice. So humor is a technique that we won't go into today, but as far as you can, using humor can lighten the situation, and really it just makes you more likable. So that's something you definitely want in the workplace, okay? So let's move on. Oh yes, finally, call to action as well. Remember that if you are doing a table topic, typically you may give your view of something, but what happens from there? Because if you remember in the first mistake, we talked about speech value. So sometimes giving that call to action, telling people what to do next is that value. Likewise, if you were to do a sales pitch and there's no call to action, well, you might not get the sale. So ask for the sale, call to action. And you find all the champion speeches, typically they ask you to do something. This year's world champion of public speaking, Aaron Beverly, right? He told us it is your mission, right, to break down the barriers between cultures. And it's your mission to accept people the way they are. So use a call to action to leave a strong answer at the end of your message. Mistake number 3. Okay, I think this one, well, yeah. I already know it all, so what's the point of me listening? Right, so for those of you who have seen the live version of this workshop, this might be in your mind. If you've already seen this workshop, what's the point of listening? Okay, that's it. This is something that happens often, and it's not just in the workplace. It's in our relationships, at home, all the same. Think about this. Maybe from personal example, right? My mom used to tell me, clean the room. Every 5 minutes, she'll come to me and say, Kin, clean your room. And I'll be, yeah, I know. And really, I won't clean it. Why? Because I've already heard it before. Our brain switches off when it's not new information. So in the same way, what are the things that you often say? Or what is a conventional viewpoint? Are you just saying something that's conventional? If someone were to ask the question, so which do you think is more important, health or wealth? I think most of you in the audience here would probably say, yeah, it's health. So now that's conventional. So what you say after that is not going to be as interesting as opposed to you saying, hang on, all of you saying health, you are misguided. Let me share with you why it is wealth. And suddenly, oh, hey, something different. I want to hear that. So sometimes playing devil's advocate can be a good way to really get the attention of people. And not only that, you offer a different viewpoint in the workplace. And that puts you it puts you aside. It presents you as a critical thinker. It presents you as someone who dares to challenge the norm. Of course, not in a way that makes others look stupid, but really to challenge the assumptions of how you operate. Because only from critical thinking can you actually create breakthroughs, right? And this is, in Bloom's taxonomy of learning, this is a level 5 and 6 thinking skill between evaluation and synthesis, right? Being able to bring across new ideas to create new things. So what can you say that's fresh? What's something that someone's never heard before? How do you become that thought leader, right? Is it perhaps a different opinion? Or maybe a third option. So maybe the question is health or wealth. Maybe you might say health and wealth are both important, but both are not the most important thing in life. The most important thing in life is love, and here's why. So now that's something fresh. Now, if I were to use another example, maybe at work, perhaps the boss maybe has a project for you and he says, based on this project, should we or should we not take this customer? Right now he's giving you 2 options. Could you present a third option? You say, hey boss, it's not about whether or not we should take this customer. What if we take this customer but on a different kind of a contractual basis, right? So sometimes creating that third option brings across new possibilities, right? And when you create new possibilities in the workplace, that sets you out as someone different, that sets you as someone being effective. right? Even in sales, I don't know how many salespeople are around here, but can I just see, you could raise your hands or maybe like just say, hi, I'm in sales or anything, anyone? Yeah, but if you're in sales, sometimes in the point of objection handling, a lot of the time in a negotiation, people get stuck in two entrenched positions, right? You're either here or you're here. So give a third option, some middle ground where you can perhaps give up on some of the things that aren't that great or that don't allow the other person to move. From my own experience as a coach, for example, sometimes individuals that I coach feel that they might not be able to make a one-off payment upfront. So what do? I offer them a third option and say, you know what, we can do this by installments. And they say, oh, installments, cool, that's fine. So offering that third option really does create possibilities for you. Okay, and this is particularly relevant in the workplace. Third, if you can, share personal experiences, especially in table topics. Why? Because everyone knows that Thomas Edison had to try 10,000 times before he got the light bulb. Or everybody knows Michael Jordan took, 6,000 game-winning shots at the end of every game. What about your personal experience? Because when you tell your own story, it's always going to be fresh, and it allows people to relate to you and see that, oh, wow, you've been there, you've done that, and you've come out stronger. I think a very, very good example of using personal experience to get people's attention would be Steve Jobs. He talked about how he flunked out of college. He talked about how he took calligraphy lessons because he enjoyed calligraphy, right? And from that, we get a better sense of who he is, and he uses it to illustrate the point that you won't know the use of what you're going through until 20 years later. But when you do, you can connect the dots, right? So that's personal experience. At this point, can I just check in with everyone? Is everyone there still alive? I'm not sure because I'm not getting any feedback and I can't see your faces on the video as well. So I don't know if everyone's actually alive or not.
Hello.
And I do want to make this more interactive because the better the more we interact, the better we learn, right? So can I just see, is everyone doing okay?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so are there any thoughts, any questions so far? Or shall I move to the next section?
Can you do a summary at some point?
Yes, I will do a summary slightly later, right?
Fine.
There will be one. Oh, wow, Shan. I feel so bad for you. Okay, I hope that perhaps at least this is more exciting than the chapter meeting. All right, so let's move on quickly, right? So what are some things I learned about answering questions? First part, confidence is key. The best example of this, Donald Trump, right? You can ask him any random nonsense and he'll just, no, that's a terrible question, you blah, 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 and he wipes them off. Now, I'm not saying that what he's doing is great, but there's something about confidence, particularly in the workplace, right, that makes you a go-to man, especially in times of crisis. And I know the economy worldwide isn't doing very well. I heard it's pretty bad in China right now. I've also heard that the job market is weak in Singapore. I'm not sure how it is in the US, but here's where it is. Confidence is key when you answer questions. If you're dealing with clients, it's the same thing. Are you confident you can help me solve my problem? I'm not sure, but I'll try my best. Is that gonna inspire confidence in your audience? Probably not. So think about how you can use that confidence. And confidence is, once again, it's something that can be built. All right. It starts with believing that you add value. If you don't believe in your product, you can't sell it unless you're a seasoned scammer, right? Which I'm sure all of you are not. And believing you add value also means that if your boss picks on you for whatever reason in the meeting, say, for example, hey, CJ, so what do you think about our proposal? And you're caught off guard, right? And you might be thinking, yeah, but boss, I'm not you. Why would you ask me? Well, don't you think that the fact that he asked you for this, for your opinion, it means that he values what you think, right? So rather than to put yourself down, especially if you don't feel particularly confident, what you want to do is to believe that you add value. You're getting paid for the value that you provide at the workplace, right? If the boss didn't believe you add value, why would you be hired? Okay, so remember that. You add value. Next, try to have fun. If not, what's the point, right? So a lot of the time, I understand table topics, it can be quite nerve-wracking. We don't want to make mistakes. We don't want to appear as being stupid, or we don't want our mind to go blank in front of the stage. But all the same, see if you can have fun, because you notice that the speakers that look like they're having fun on stage usually are the ones that you feel most fun watching, right? So at this point, I'm actually having quite quite a fair bit of fun with this webinar. It's not something that I'm very used to, but I hope you've been enjoying it so far, right? And last but not least, identity. So identity really, really is an important part of confidence, right? You get confidence from practice, but you also get confidence from knowing who you are, right? For myself, I know that who I am is someone who inspires others to inspire. I also know that my words will inspire some people and they may fall short on other people. But I recognize that it's okay. I'm not here to make everyone happy. I only can do what I can do. So knowing who I am and what I can do, I go out there and do the best I can. No regrets, okay? And I hope all of you are getting value from this webinar, really, because this is, it's useful if you apply. Believe me, I've tried it, it works, okay? So on this point on identity, some of the things that you can do include daily affirmations. To give you an example of what that's like, I don't know if you can see my phone here. Let me go closer. Can you see the text? Yeah, right? Oh, it's flipped. So I have some declarations and I say, for example, who I am. Like I grow every day, every moment, no matter where I am. I inspire others to inspire no matter how I feel, right? So by saying these affirmations as mantras every day, I create that sense of who I am and that identity of who I am. When I'm tired and I'm slacking off, hang on, I'm someone who inspires others to inspire, right? Which is why even now with a fever, I'm committed to this because I inspire others to inspire. I don't back down just because I have a fever, all right? So identity really helps you build that confidence, okay? Next, reframing challenges. Okay, so this part, right? How do you answer tough questions? Anyone ever got a tough question like this? Okay, for the gentleman in the room, I hope you never had to answer a question like that. But I did have a ex-girlfriend who asked me this all the time. And maybe that's why she became my ex, because I could never really answer the question well. So what you can do, right, rather than to figure out that, oh man, any answer I give is wrong, think about how you can reframe. And you start the reframing process by, what do I know? So to answer that question, I reframe it eventually, or I learn how to reframe by saying, you know, it's not about whether the dress makes you look fat. It's about how you feel wearing that dress. Because if you feel great, you're going to look great. If you don't feel great, you're not going to be confident wearing it, and it's not going to look good on you whether it makes you look fat or not. And I know you want to look great. So do you feel great wearing this dress? No? Okay, change it, right? So reframe it to what you know, and then you talk about what you know. Also, you can challenge the question. For example, recently at a workplace coaching, somebody had asked me, he told me about this situation where the boss put him in a tight spot, right? He's an executive. He wants to be a manager soon. The boss was asking him, you know, our new intern, Jenny, and Jenny's not been performing well. Do you think we should fire her? Right? So now with a question like that, my client was stumped because he's not, I mean, he doesn't want to throw Jenny under the bus. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. But if he says, no, we shouldn't fire her, then maybe the manager will say, wow, you know what? You can't make tough decisions. I don't think you're ready to be a manager. So how could he answer this better? He could reframe, right? Or challenge that question and say, you know, boss, it's not about whether or not we should fire this person. It's about whether we can turn this person into an asset for the company, right? If through training and mentorship, we can turn this person into an asset, then we should keep her. If we can't turn this person into an asset, then there wouldn't be a point in keeping her, because that would be a waste of everyone's time. So how, boss, do you think it's possible for her to give training and mentorship to turn her into an asset? Right? So what was done here is the reframe. It's not about fire or don't fire. It's, can we turn her into an asset? And next, he also Tai Chi, right? Or he pushed the responsibility of the firing decision back to the boss. So that way you don't overstep your boundaries and you don't overreach. And I understand office politics can be very touchy. It can be very challenging, but this is what you do. You can return the responsibility to the person who asked for it, but yet you share your viewpoint based on the frame that you know. So this is how you use what you know and you challenge that question. Establish the context and the value of why you've reframed it, right? Whether it's the dress example or the firing example. If it's something that you don't know about, let's say maybe for table topics, maybe the question, should Singapore embrace nuclear energy? Now, what do you know about nuclear energy? Is anyone here a nuclear energy expert? Right? maybe not. Maybe you know that, oh, there was a Fukushima accident, there was a Chernobyl accident. So that's what you know, right? So perhaps you can challenge that by saying, I don't know if Singapore's ready for nuclear energy because I don't know how safe nuclear energy currently is. As long as we can prevent a Fukushima or a Chernobyl from happening, then this is something that we might consider. Otherwise, we should look at other clean renewable resources or sources of energy, such as solar, tide, wind, and then you can talk about that portion. And then you come back and you summarize by saying, so to answer your question, I don't know whether nuclear energy is safe enough for Singapore, but I know that we definitely need to find sources of clean renewable energy because that is the future, right? So you've answered the question without answering the question directly, and you still sound fine, okay? And any thoughts at this point? Anyone? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a question back to the audience, and anyone who feels like they want to unmute, they can unmute to try and answer the question. Okay, so the question I'm going to throw is, well, might be slightly sensitive, but then again, we're all here to share our views and think about how we can present our views in a responsible and effective manner, right? So I'm going to throw open the question, right? The question is, based on the situation in Hong Kong right now, what do you think the Chinese government should do? Would anyone like to answer that question? Right, just go for it.
The Chinese government should just get rid of the premier.
Okay, so go on, elaborate, right? If this were a table topic, how would you answer it?
Okay. I would think that, say, look at the situation and then put a firm stand that the Chinese government should do something because things are getting out of hand. And if the current leader is not doing anything, China should step in. Otherwise, it will become mayhem and something that is not containable.
Okay. So Alicia, you're the one answering, right?
Yes.
I can't see because there's no video.
I didn't put my video.
Okay, no worries. So on that note, Alicia, was this a challenging question?
Not really. Not really, because this thing has been happening for quite a while, and I quite enjoy watching the news. I'm not in a bad way, but quite like to catch on the news, so I have my own ideas as well.
Yeah, definitely. So now with your ideas, but you realize if this were a table topic, you need to talk for about 1 to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I realize after about 30 seconds, you're like, kind of there, right? So how do you reframe this into something that you can talk easily about?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Yeah. Or, I mean, anyone, feel free to contribute, right? Whether through this discussion here or whether through the chat. How could we reframe this challenging question of what do you think the Chinese government should do? It's a challenging question because it's loaded politically. You don't exactly want to offend anyone as well. And it can be quite touchy, especially if there's anyone here who is pro-Hong Kong, right? Or pro-China. And yeah, it's touchy, it's sensitive. So how could we reframe this question into something that would be easier to talk about? Anyone? In fact, if everyone can try to do a reframe and type it out in the group chat or just unmute your microphones and go for it, I think that would be something where everyone can learn. What are the different ways we can reframe such a question? What should the Chinese government do about Hong Kong? Or maybe I'll start. I think one of the ways we could reframe this is to say, it's not just about what the Chinese government should do. It's about what the people in Hong Kong should do together with the Chinese government. Because ultimately, one is the ruler and one is the people being ruled. And if they don't see eye to eye, there's not going to be any peaceful resolution. Then you just talk about what they can do to achieve peace together, right? So rather than talk about taking one side or taking the other side, now you create a different side. Or at least for me, I create a side where they work together. What could they work together for? By focusing on things such as economic prosperity, by making sure that everyone has, the ability to live safely without being, a subject or target of violence, right? So by focusing on some of these themes, that's how I would reframe it. Does anyone have different ways to reframe this question?
Oh yeah, I thought of a way. Maybe you can ask, what would, the better question to ask would be, what would China want and what would the people of Hong Kong, other than the protesters, want? Then from there, we find some areas, common areas that merge, and then we can have the conclusion.
Yeah, right. So in some sense, what you've done here then is you're not just parroting or going with one particular point of view, but you're considering multiple perspectives. And yeah, when you put it that way, what can everyone do? Suddenly it becomes easier to talk about, right? And I see from Shan here in the chat as well, rephrase, how can we try to achieve an equal footing, right? Yeah, so that's another way to rephrase that question. So one of the ways to use this rephrase, right, and this is something that Donald Trump uses, it's also something that a lot of news anchors or political correspondents use. Now, when they get asked a difficult question about something, they will say, it's not about blah, 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 it's about blah, 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 right? So for example, it's not about a wealth tax, it's about making sure our country is educated, right? Or it's not about banning PMDs, it's about ensuring the safety of every Singaporean pedestrian. You see what I mean? So rather than, and I know the banning of personal mobility devices, right? Your e-scooters, this is a hot topic in Singapore as well. So if you get asked a question and it's loaded, then you can reframe it by saying, it's not about blah, 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 it's about blah, blah, blah. And yes, I see from Zen Wu, did I pronounce your name right? Zen Wu? Or Zhen Wu? Yeah. So yeah, you can give examples of views from different perspectives, right? Even though the question is what China should do, then you can say, it's not just about what China should do. It's about what we together as a world can collectively do. From the Chinese perspective, they could do this. From the Hong Kong people's perspective, they can do that. From the West or other political observers, what we can do is da-da-da-da. From neighboring countries, what we can do is da-da-da-da-da. So this is how you reframe that question. The same way earlier, it's not about whether we should fire her or not. It's about how can we make her an asset. So that's the skill of reframing. I know it may not come naturally. Excuse me. There we go. Yes, from Shrishti, thank you. Yes, we could consider the impact of different actions on the people and the economy as well. So you could say it's not about what they should or should not do. It's about how what they do will impact the people. So let's look at the impact for the people and the economy. What could be done that would make the people and the economy recover better? What could be done to give them a better quality of life? Right? So you reframe the conversation away from what China should do, but you go to what the people need to have, right? And that way it's a lot easier to navigate such a topic, okay? Are we all good at this point? So we can move on and do some practice, yeah? Any response? Oh. Okay, I'll just move on then. Any objections, please feel free to object. So the next part is linking ideas. From Angela, let's see. Run a questionnaire asking people to list outcomes they would like and outcomes they would like. Okay, when you have a total list of possibilities such as sending people blah, 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 running. Okay, yeah. So that's something that you can do, right? Run through possibilities before you arrive at a definitive answer as well. All right, so, okay, I'll move on here. So linking ideas, and Angela, I know you've seen this presentation maybe 3 times, possibly the first time on the webinar, but by all means, feel free to contribute, right? So the idea here for linking ideas is that linking ideas is a thinking skill that in many ways is in short supply in Singapore. And why do I say that? If you think about it, in Singapore, a lot of the time, at least for me, I was raised up to believe that there's only one right answer, and that answer is at the back of the textbook. The challenge with that is that we start to see things very boxed up, in a very compartmentalized manner, and we don't realize that many things in life these days, it's all interconnected. In the same way that you think of Toastmasters as Toastmasters, you think of work as work, you think of family as family. But what if Toastmasters, work, and family could be linked. How do you transfer the skills from one area of your life into another area of your life and transfer the benefit from there elsewhere, right? So by being able to make these mental connections between events, between ideas, this is how you create groundbreaking disruption in the market. To give you an example, I know that 10 years ago, right, there was no Uber, there was no Grab, I think, at least not in Singapore. But when Uber and Grab came in, bam, they decided to link GPS with cab service. Suddenly everything changed. The whole market got disrupted, right? And that's from linking different ideas. So this is where we need to start thinking, how could we link new ideas so that we can create novel solutions, especially in the workplace? So let's start with the first example. By the way, everyone, please feel free to unmute and contribute. I think this is the way we learn best, when everyone's contributing, right? So let's try. How would you link disappointment with a Ferrari? Anyone, just feel free to shout out, right? Let's make this a noisy discussion. It's a lot more fun that way. How would you link disappointment with a Ferrari? You could use a story or you could go direct. Anyone?
Okay, we can link disappointment with Ferrari with how we always see old men in a Ferrari car.
Okay, yeah, got that. I'm sure it would be a lot more exciting to see a young man, right, come out of Ferrari car. Yeah, okay, got that. Right? Anyone? Anyone else? How else would you link disappointment with Ferrari? Anyone else?
Why is it always red?
Why is that disappointing?
Because it's not my favorite color.
Wow, okay, yeah. I'm
Disappointment.
disappointed that it's never in my what's your favorite color, by the way?
Okay, my favorite color is lime green and sky blue.
Lime green.
Color of freshness and youthfulness.
I
Red
see.
is the color of, how should I put it? Red is the color of bravery and speed, probably.
Oh yes, passion, danger, all of that. But I got that. Maybe you will buy a Lambo instead, right? Because Lambo does come in lime green and sky blue.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else? Right, by the way, the more you participate, the more you actually practice linking this right now. And the more you practice communicating to others effectively. So for all those of you who are still muted, please feel free to unmute and contribute, right? We all learn better together.
7 and 4, you know, and 3 definitions.
Sorry, I can't quite hear you. Can you speak closer to your mic?
4, yeah. 7 source, 1 I think, 1 I need, 1 repetitive, and 3 others.
Oh, okay. I think that's Shan Shan, right? Doing the R counter next to her. Whoops.
7 5 years.
Okay. Anyway, I'll move on. All right. Just so that we have more time for practice. Okay. What about success and the banana? How can we link success with the banana?
And 1 you know.
Anyone? Or should I pick on individuals so that all of you will get the experience of learning? How would you link success with a banana? No one?
Okay. Before you become successful, you need to go through many ups and downs. So just like a banana, you need to peel the skin off. So finally, you go through a lot of vulnerable situations and then you talk about the stories.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks. Alicia, right? I still can't see your face, so I don't know whether it's you talking about.
Oh, you want to see my face?
No, I don't have to see your face, but that's how we communicate, right? I mean, think about it. If you can't even show your face on a camera, how can you show your face in real life?
No, because our host has not allowed us to start the video.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's for bandwidth issues. I see. Okay. No worries about that. We'll just carry on this way. Yeah, so you can use banana as a metaphor, right? So metaphors are particularly effective when explaining difficult concepts or for helping people draw comparisons. Yeah, so in this case, for example, success is like peeling a banana. You have to work at it before you get to the sweetness within, right? Anyone, any else? Any other answers? Yes, Angela.
Bananas come in bunches and success comes from teamwork. When there are several of you, there are lots of answers to every question and you feel confident because you've got people supporting you. So be like a banana, surround yourself with other people like yourself and you can form a team.
Wow, fantastic. Can we give Angela a hand? That was really comprehensive, right? Bananas come in bunches, right? So success comes with a team of people. Fantastic. Anyone, anything else? How else can we link success with a banana?
I would like to try.
Yes, please do.
Ben here.
Hi, Ben.
Yes, hi. Sorry, I want to up my video, but then it's currently I'm outside, so I'm afraid that the bandwidth has some limitation.
Don't worry about it.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just start. All right, banana. It reminds me of Minion. And why does it so successful to me? Because when he sang the song ba 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 na 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 ba 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 na na na, and I feel happy. When I feel happy, I feel success. That's the ingredients of the banana to my success.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well done, Ben. Good try. So anyone, anything else? Any other tries? Banana and success. Would anyone else like to give it a shot or shall we move on? By the way, there's no right or wrong answer. There's only what you try and how effective it might be, right? So the more you try, the better you get at linking ideas together. Anyone else? All right, if not, we'll go to the next one. Love and a dustbin. How would you link love and a dustbin? How could you link love and a dustbin?
I can link love and a dustbin.
Yeah, go for it.
When you're with someone you love, you never notice things which are wrong with them. Everyone else can see what's wrong with them, but you can't. And that's how you could be with everybody. Throw all the things they do wrong into the dustbin and concentrate on what they do right. Because if you concentrate on problems and complaints all the time, you have a miserable day and make everyone else miserable. So I've seen this done as a physical thing. People write their problems on a piece of paper and throw them in a waste paper basket. I've seen this done as therapy. If you were abused as a child or you're still aggrieved that your boyfriend has dumped you, you write then the name of the person you're cross with on a piece of paper, you put it in the dustbin or the waste bin, and then it's physically gone. It's what we do with dead bodies. We bury them and then we move on.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, you sound like you have a fair bit of experience with this. All right, I've definitely had to throw quite a few of my past failed relationships in the dustbin. And I've definitely thrown, right, all the things I'm unhappy about in my relationships in the dustbin as well. Okay, anyone, any other ways to link love in a dustbin?
Well, love is something like a dustbin. If you love someone, you accept the person's flaws and good points. Everything, you have to take it in.
Okay, well, yeah, good try. It's true. Everything, I wu ji wu, right? Okay, which literally means if you love the house, you love the crows on top of the house as well, right? So you love it all. Okay, I'll move on. So you have more practice for some of the structures later. So this is the idea, right? This is something that all of you can practice on a daily basis by linking a certain emotion or a feeling with something visible that you can see or a concept. And by practicing these links, you start to link ideas together, whether through a story or through common traits. And this is what you can do to become even more quick on your feet. For example, maybe you see a bird flying and then you see the MRT train. So how would you link perhaps a crow with being on time? Like, right? So this is how you can practice every day. Think about different ideas and different concepts and link them together so that you get that practice being able to think quickly, right? So all this practice is about taking your time with it, and later you get the practice to actually execute quickly. So this is where you build your neural shortcuts, by practice. Excuse me. So let's move on. So quite quickly, the steps to think quickly are to begin with the end in mind. It is an effective habit because when you know where you're going, it's easier to get there. Next, frame your answer, like what we talked about. And framing your answer is about knowing where you are going. So for example, if you remember, the frame earlier was, it's not about whether we should fire her, it's about whether she can turn it into an asset, right? And last but not least, use the structure. Oh, my nose is getting the better of me. Please forgive me. I'm so glad I'm not sneezing in front of all of you right now in person, right? Let the germs stay on my side of the computer. Okay, so what are some of these structures? The same way that you would file taxes easily because there's a template for you, structures are thinking templates that we can use in order to communicate effectively. So probably the easiest one is PREP, right? Where you basically give a point, a reason for your point, then you elaborate or you give an example about that point, and you summarize by restating the point again. So for example, can somebody just type out or throw out a question, and I'll just demonstrate how you use PREP to answer that, that question. Yep, the faster we go, the more time we can practice. Yeah, anyone, just throw any question, please. Oh, should you drink coffee or tea? All right. So how I would answer this is, remember, begin with the end in mind. So personally, I like coffee, so I'll start with coffee. And then I'll say, for example, P. Well, I think we should drink coffee. R, the reason? It's because coffee keeps me awake. Example, I remember days in college where I only slept 2 hours because I was pulling an all-nighter on essays, and the only way I could get myself to class and look decent and look presentable is by drinking coffee. Without coffee, I look like a zombie, right? But once I have that coffee, everything is fine. And that's why, my friends, if you want to look better, think quicker, and sound smarter, it all begins with coffee, right? So that's how you give a point, reason, elaborate, and point. And if you want to, you can use this multiple times to give 3 reasons, for example. So your first P becomes reason number 1, reason number 2, reason number 3, and then you go on and develop that idea. All right. Moving on. Scales. So this is about balance. Basically, you balance pros and cons, or you balance 2 different things. So for example, maybe Angela asked again, right? Should you drink coffee or tea? You can use the scales. You can say, on one hand, coffee is great because it keeps you awake, it's aromatic, it's blah, 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 blah. But on the other hand, tea is calming, it makes you feel relaxed, it helps the circulation in your body. And then after that, you come to a conclusion. So which is more important, coffee or tea? And you choose it based on your weightage. Okay, I'm gonna move along faster because I only have, I think, 7 minutes left, or 6 minutes. Oops. The third one, right? Light bulb. This is about problem and solution. So the idea here is frame it into a problem so that your answer is the solution. I'm going to use coffee and tea again because it's faster. So should you drink coffee or tea? You might start the thing with, the problem with me is that I sleep only about 4 hours a day. And what that means is in the mornings, I'm cranky, and in the mornings, I can't think quickly, and in the mornings, I'm not sure if I can drive without falling asleep. And that's why coffee is my choice, because coffee is the perfect solution for someone who doesn't have enough sleep, needs to stay awake, has to be sharp, right? So by using that problem solution, it would work well. Or at least it's a very good frame that you can use, particularly if you are in sales, right? you can't sell anything if people don't feel the problem. It's sort of like you don't walk around, you don't see salespeople going, hey, do you want insurance? Do you want insurance? No one's going to buy that. They don't buy a solution until they feel the problem. So this is where, by creating or framing the problem, your solution then becomes relevant. And that's how you add value to the conversation. All right. Okay, next, time. So time is quite simple, right? It's basically using chronological order. Could anyone perhaps throw a question? Doesn't have to be time related, but by throwing that question, let's see how we can frame it in terms of time. Anyone, any question? Oh, should I marry him? Oh, wow. Hello, Vivek. Welcome to the conversation. Okay, so you might start by answering this question. Oh, really? No, don't worry about it. I don't think I'll need 30 minutes. I think it's more for everyone to practice. So perhaps to answer that, right, should I marry him? How I would use time is I would say, when I was young, I had this neighbor. Okay, maybe me and him a bit weird. I'll answer, should I marry her? Okay. When I was 16, I remember my first love, and her name was Shannon. She was the girl next door. She was beautiful. And when I first held her hand, the first thought in my mind was, this is paradise. I want to marry her. But 1 month after that, she never talked to me again. And I was heartbroken. So every relationship after that, I always ask myself, I like this person, but should I really marry? What if that person breaks my heart forever? But today, I finally found someone who encouraged me, who persuaded me, who pushed me to realize that that commitment is something she was willing to do. And so while I was waiting to think, should I marry her? Should I marry her? She gave me a look that resembled a dustbin. Or rather, a look that said, marry me. And so I thought, should I marry her? Yes, I should. And in the future, I hope I never have to ask this question again, right? Because I will be happily married, hopefully once and forever. Okay, so maybe this is not the best kind of a structure to use, but you can recount maybe different points in your life where this question comes up. Should I marry him? Should I marry him? Should I marry him? Right? So maybe that would be more appropriate for Vivek. Anyway, I know Vivek, your answer was yes, right? Okay, so I'll move on. And thank you for that question, right? Next, zooming. I'll do these two together, triangle and zoom, because what it is, oh, thank you, CJ. I appreciate that, right? Why we have the triangle and the zoom together basically is to consider multiple perspectives. If you can give 3 different perspectives, or to zoom into a micro perspective and zoom out to a macro perspective, this actually makes you look a lot smarter in terms of how you analyze situations and trends. All right. So for example, can anyone throw out a question and we'll try to do this? And we'll do this all together. All right. Someone throw out a question, please. Could be any question about anything. The more challenging, the better. Okay, I see 2 questions. Should I live in Singapore or Australia? Okay, so maybe let's start with the first question, since Angela's fingers were faster. Everyone all together, right? What are some of the different points of view you think would be relevant to this question? Of course, there's your personal point of view, but what other points of view are there? For should you live in Singapore or Australia? Thank you, Willie, for your question. Yeah, okay. Let's go with the first question first, right? Should you live in Singapore or Australia? What are the different points of view we could have? From the government's point of view, yeah. Cost of living point of view, some more? Poll check. Okay. Your family's point of view, What else? Maybe from weather, sustainability, education, or opportunities. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes. There we go, right? So these are several, points of view that you can use. So probably for each point of view, you can do a PREP, and then you move to the next point of view, right? Let's see, there was another question here. Which one? Willie's question. Shall I take yogurt or seaweed now? What are the different points of view there? Okay, from a nutrition point of view, yeah. What else? Yeah, from taste, mood. Thank you, Shrishti. Yeah, and Woody. What else? Yeah, liquid, solid. So if you can only take liquids, then definitely you take yogurt. Okay, Shashan, flavors. Yeah. What other points of view besides taste, mood, and health? I think so far that seems to be everything. Cutlery or not? Okay, convenience, right? What about sustainability? Oh, I see from Willie here. Excuse me, that Vivek has the answer. Vivek, could you share with us yogurt and seaweed? What's the answer? Crackers. Yeah, Shan, giving both. Exactly, you can do both as well, right? The third opinion. Okay. All right, I'll move on here so that we don't take too much time. The last part is telling a story. Now, storytelling for business is something that really has been one of the highlights in the corporate world these days. Managers are all learning how to use the power of stories, right? So quite quickly, I'll share with you a structure that I've learned and I've learned this from a Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Cohen. He's also an international speaker and trainer. And he says that the story basically starts with 5 simple elements. You must have this in your stories for it to be effective, all right? The first one is the S, the situation. Always have the situation. If you grew up in Singapore and you watch this show called Under One Roof, right? By, what's his name? Moses Lim, Tan Atek. He always starts with, long before your time, in the southern province of China, there lived blah, blah, blah. So you start with the situation. Tell us the setting. Tell us what's the conflict that's currently happening. What's going on, right? When you create that situation or you create a problem or a conflict, then we buy into it right away. Okay? I'll move on. Next, thoughts and feelings. Okay, so this is the part where when you have thoughts and feelings, people relate. Otherwise, you're just narrating a series of facts. You know how some people tell a story, then they said, oh, so I was there, then I did this, then I did that, then that thing happened, then everything okay lor? Then you're like, okay. You don't feel emotionally invested. But why Korean dramas sell so well? It's because it's all about the thoughts and feelings. Like, oh, he's so handsome, I cannot take it. And then when you see that display of the thoughts and feelings, you can relate. Especially when Alicia sees a young man coming out of Ferrari, right? Yeah, so that's the idea here, that you want to be able to talk about your thoughts and feelings. And this is where people feel you as a person. This is where you emotionally engage them so that you can move them, not just through logic, but through emotions, all right? I've noticed in the corporate world, this is something that's really difficult for a lot of people to do, especially those who are technical. Get practice on doing so. You might feel that, hey, talking about feelings makes you vulnerable, but there is this video, it's called The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown. And it's actually one of the most watched TED Talks, right? So learn how to use, let me do that. Power of vulnerability. So it's about what lets people see your human side, and then we connect, and then we grow from there, all right? So do watch that TED Talk. It's quite good. So thoughts and feelings, I'll move on. You go to observations and actions. So what happened? What did you do? What did you see? How did things change? And in the story, this is what we call the turning point, right? And then from the turning point, you get a result. And after the result, what's your learning? What's the message you want to leave with the audience, right? And you find this STORY structure really does apply even to movies, whether it's Lord of the Rings, right? What was the situation? Nobody wants to take the ring, or everybody wants the ring. So Frodo said, all of you shut up, I'll take the ring. So his thoughts and feelings. Oh man, nobody understands me. I'm so lonely. I have this burden, right? What about observations and actions? And Sam comes over and says, don't worry, Mr. Frodo, I've got your back. You will always have me, right? Samwise Gamgee. And results, they managed to dump the ring in Mount Doom. So what do you learn? Sometimes when we doubt ourselves, all we need is somebody to walk the road with us. And that's beauty of friendship. All right, or whatever your learning is. So typically, your life experience can be put into these stories and catered to your learning. For example, when I introduced myself earlier, my situation was I shot myself in the foot in a debate. I felt lousy. I thought that I can't communicate effectively. By what observations and actions? What was the turning point? In the army, I realized I could be someone better. I could be a leader. And to do that, I have to learn how to communicate more effectively. Results, I eventually became an impromptu speaking champion. What did I learn? Communication is a learnable skill, right? So think about how you can use your own experience and put it into your learning so that you can move ahead, all right? So now we'll come back to this, and perhaps if we can do 1 or 2 table topics, I'll throw out a question. Whoever wants to attempt this, we can do the timer as well, so you can practice and share with us which structure you're going to use, all right? So we go through this cycles. So the question that I'm going to throw out here is, oh, well, they say Singapore GST is going to go up to 9%, right? Excuse me. So should Singapore adopt 9% GST? Would anyone like to adopt this question? And feel free to use any of the structures you can see on the screen. You can combine them as well. I think Woody wants to try, right? I see you thinking. Yeah, Woody, you want to give it a shot? Should Singapore raise GST to 9%? Yeah, unmute yourself before you begin, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the reason why there was a proposal from the government to raise the GST is to support on the social spending. So as the people get older, I mean, our nation get wealthier, the average lifespan of people get longer, so there are more spending on health, so and other social spending. So I think probably this is the reason why there's a need to raise GST, but it may not go well with the payers.
Mm-hmm. So why will it not go well with the payers?
Why we know? Yeah, people tend not to want to pay extra, I guess. Tax. Yeah.
Of course. Is there a third perspective, perhaps? You've given the government perspective and the payer perspective, right? Is there a third perspective?
I think to offset the burden of the people, I think the government has also given some rebates, like the utility rebates, and probably to some support program to the poor, and also a lot of skill upgrade for the workforce, training opportunity, subsidy for the education. So I don't know, it may be a better well off to some people. They are probably getting more than what they are paid. They paid for the GST. Yes.
Ah, okay, great. Yeah, well done, Woody. Good try. Okay, so what it's worth, right? At this point, I think what everyone can consider is to really look here in terms of choose one of the like you hear the question, then you find your end in mind, where you're going to go, and then you use the structure that best suits, and tell us the structure before you begin, right? That way you can practice embedding that structure into your psyche so that you have it anytime you want to summon it, all right? Okay, I'm going to throw out the next question. Oh, if you wonder why there's an Illuminati eye there, it's just for fun. I'm not associated with Illuminati, right? Okay, so the next question might be, so should Singapore ban PMDs? Was it a right move? And would anyone like to try answering this question? Should Singapore have banned personal mobility devices?
Of course, Singapore shouldn't ban PMDs, personal mobility devices, because to ban or not to ban, that is not the question.
Nice.
There are many other solutions other than ban, because banning is just a knee-jerk solution. We have to look at other impact, more likely the social economic impact of people who write PMDs. And these people are the men on the street, auntie, uncles, who have changed, upgraded from bicycles to e-scooters. Lower level people who can't find job and so have gone to food delivery companies. Parents who need to shuttle their children to school. So it's a very social economic problem. So just banning knee-jerk solution costs will definitely affect the lives of these people. And so the question is, we should do more than just ban. There's more things to do, like improving the infrastructure, introducing education system to improve social behavior so everybody can coexist. Pedestrians, PMDs, cyclists, in a fluid system. And at the end of the day, banning PMDs is not the solution. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Alisha. I thought that was a really good answer, right? In fact, you did a little bit of a merging of the various points of view from, for example, the government point of view, the user and social economic point of view. And you actually highlighted that as a problem, right? So the light bulb. That's why you find that naturally, once you talk about a problem, you go to offering the solution. That way, the answer will feel more complete, right? So you might say, so banning is not the solution, right? But rather we should work on infrastructure to so that we right. So that's how you've done it effectively. Well done, Alisha. All right, I think we have time for one more before we wrap up the this session. So the next question is, the next question. Okay, is a degree necessary to survive in Singapore? Is a degree necessary to survive in Singapore? May I invite our 2018 Singapore District Champion for Public Speaking, Miss Vivek Nahija, to share her thoughts on this? Let's give her a hand. Yay! Vivek, are you there? Why apologies? Oh, all right. I guess that's the best dodge that you have. Would anyone like to take the question then? Anyone like to try? Is that Angela's hand waving?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, what was the question?
Okay, I'll type it out as well. Is a degree necessary to survive?
Oh, yes. For me, a degree was necessary because I wanted to teach English, and I was told I could only teach English if I had a university degree. Very simple. I'm not sure why a degree is wanted, because it wasn't an English degree. It was sufficient for me to speak English, but I also needed a degree. And I think the idea is that if you have had the discipline to spend 3 years working and studying on your own to investigate the subject, you have the ability to investigate the structure of the language and to teach it to somebody else. However, there are plenty of systems, and I feel that degrees take far too long. I believe that everything should be done in crash courses, because I've seen crash courses for A-level students who'd failed and then did a crash course. I ran a crash course for people who failed O-level English, and they failed at the mock, and we got them through O-level. So a degree just takes far too long. A degree is a good idea, but a degree could be done in 6 months or done in three holidays, for example. A lot of people do English as a foreign language in a 4-week course instead of over a year. And anything that requires you to do 1 hour a week can be done in 10 hours a day over a 4-day weekend. So my answer is yes, a degree is necessary, but make it much shorter so that more people can do it, and make all the courses relevant. And
Alright.
make two-part courses like in America, where you have one subject and a second, so that if you apply for a job, you've got two skills to offer.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. Great answer. So if all of you notice what Angela did there, it's the part where she came back to that question, right? Because the question was, is a degree necessary to survive? But in her answer, she elaborated and she went on to talk about how perhaps degrees don't need to be 4 years long. And then suddenly that conversation and that reframe shifted away from that conversation. So as long as she came back to say, so coming back to the question, is it necessary to survive? Yes, but make it short. Now she's answered the question effectively, and she's linked up and wrapped up the whole content of her topic with that conclusion by coming back to that summary, right? So restating the question is very, very effective, and Angela used that to great effect. Can we give her a hand there as well? Okay, so now we're nearing the end of the workshop, so quite quickly. So this is the story. Please think about how you can use your own story to answer things. And so that's the summary, right? Remember, it's about confidence, reframe the challenging questions, learn how to link your ideas. And last but not least, what's the taste you're going to leave in somebody's mouth? Because when we communicate, people experience us in a certain way. Isn't that true? So what is the final taste you are leaving them with in your communication? If you're going to leave them anything like a lemon espresso, right, which is sour and bitter, people are not going to like you. You're not going to get the influence that you need. So think about how can you leave a sweet taste in people's mouth? Maybe it's talking about hope. Maybe it's talking about love. Usually with these two emotions, use that in any table topic and you usually get to win, right? And that's my own experience. So, excuse me. Excuse me. So even if there's a topic like, is a degree necessary to survive in Singapore? Then you might talk about how you might reframe and say, it's not necessary to survive. As long as you have love, you can give love, and you can create love and make people feel love. Because when people feel love, they open doors for you. Right? And then after that, you give some love to the audience and say, thank you, audience. You've given me so much love. Then the audience feel, wow, you know. When you acknowledge the audience, usually they feel good and they're likely to vote for you too. All right? Yeah, Angela, you know this to be true. Okay, so I'll move on. Some elements of taste, right? Was your speech well structured? Is there a clear message? And how did you conclude? Right? So leave a good taste, leave that structure. And for those of you who are very visual, a good structured speech looks like this. It's clear what you're talking about. It's clear what you're trying to give the audience, and people want more of it. If you're not clear, that's what it looks like. If you don't structure your speech effectively, it looks like that. And that's not something that you want to be associated with your brand. Okay? So in summary, that's what Table Topics really is about. It's about thinking quickly, using structures to answer, knowing how you're going to do it, and of course, reframing the questions that you can't quite answer. And this is a skill that now you've got the knowledge, it's time to start the practice so that you can make this part of your toolkit, part of your arsenal, whether for sales or for asking for a raise even. Okay? So thank you so much for having me. I think it's time for me to rest out of my fever. I hope you all got something great from this workshop. Thank you, everybody, and cheers. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day. Ooh.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kim. Your speech is really entertaining, exciting, and enchanting. Can we have everyone to give feedback? Maybe we can start with Alicia. Can you give feedback to Kim workshop?
Oh yes, I have to hand it to him. Despite his bad running nose, you still sound very clear, and I find you're very lively despite the flu. So I really enjoyed your workshop and I picked up quite a few techniques. But forgive me, I'm a bit tired today. I have been having a very busy few days.
Okay. Angela, your feedback, please, for the workshop.
Oh, I always enjoy these workshops, especially from a good speaker. I particularly liked is it called an acronym when you have the letters to join everything together with story? That was good. But when we had the 6 pictures, I couldn't remember which one was which. Now, in the olden days, I was told geography or history. I would like an acronym to give me the choice of the 6 formats for when I answer a table topic or put a speech together, because you have to make an instant decision. What are you going to do? Are you going to go historically, story-wise, or geographically, or the Zoom? Either have something linking all the pictures or have a word linking all the pictures so I can make a quick decision. Otherwise, I'll pick whatever comes into my head first.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm well on the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Maybe excuse me, if I may respond to that, I think the idea here sometimes is not about using all of them all at the same time or having to remember which one to use, because very often in a conversation, we don't have time to think, okay, which structure am I going to use? But rather, by the practice of having used these structures in the way that you think, what changes is that you immediately have it when you need it, and you can combine it when necessary. So as you move down in your answer through your response, you find that, okay, seems I'm talking about a problem, so I have to go to the solution after this, otherwise it's not complete, you see? So in that sense, this is what you want to do now to be able to use all of this at your disposal. Sort of like when you're speaking impromptu, you know that the stage, you can move left, you can move right, you can move to the center, you know that your hands, you should be in this box. So all of these are the things that you know. And in impromptu, you don't really decide, oh, I move my hands here or here, right? You just naturally know what to do because you've practiced. So that's the point of the structures. Practice doing those specifically, intentionally, so that when the table topic comes, you don't need to think about the structure. You just know where you're going to go and you immediately employ it in the way that you think, in the way that you speak. So that's the ultimate goal there, all right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jenny, your feedback.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Oh, wait. I think, wow, don't like video.
Can lah, yeah.
Okay, this is my first time doing online. Make me feel like I'm in the office meeting. Okay, so I'll start now. So sorry, can I start now?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Good evening, Club President, fellow Toastmasters and guests.
Ask you your feedback about his workshop.
Yeah, you asked me to start. No, I was listening. So I was listening. I think it's good to have this session online. We have more time compared to, being in a face-to-face workshop. I think that's all I can say, because sorry, I was multitasking at the same time, so I can only listen in. Yeah.
Okay, got that. Yeah. Oh, by the way, did anyone have any other questions? I realized we skipped the Q&A, right? Did anyone else have any other questions to wrap off the workshop so that we really answered what we could? Yeah, so that I can answer any other queries about the workshop. If anyone has any other queries, yes.
Leave below your email address. They want a copy of your...
Oh, yes. If you want a copy of the slides, I can make them available to you. Oops. Okay, so that's my email. It's kineng@g.harvard.edu. So let me know if you want a copy of the slides. I'll send them to you. And yeah, if you have any other questions that comes up, whether in workplace communication or otherwise, whether open concept or not, right? About open concept, I remember there was a question there. I would say in your communication, as far as you can, be professional. Try to use tact. Try not to make people look bad, right? As far as you can. I know sometimes it's not a conscious thing, but people can be sensitive, especially when our conversations don't get to be private. So I do remember this term. People say, praise publicly, punish privately. right? So where you need to have a completion or conversation to clarify misunderstanding or to give feedback, try to do that in private so that people don't feel embarrassed. I think that would be probably one of the best things you can do in the workplace, right? To protect everyone's ego and have people respect you as a leader and a communicator as well. Okay, then if there's nothing further, thanks everybody. I'm definitely going to go and sleep now because I need to. I hope all of you enjoy this. All right, thank you, take care and good night. Back to you, CJ, Toastmaster of the day, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Kim Fong. So do you all need a break or we can start immediately?
Break. Toilet break.
Toilet break for 5 minutes, okay?
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. Yeah, we take a break for 10 minutes first.
Okay. Recording.